Hello there, and welcome to another of Andre's Artist Profiles. Today, I'm going to be profiling one of my favorite artists, and that's Mr. Thomas Dolby. Now, I know a lot of music admirers out there, especially people in my own personal age group, rather dislike anything from the synth, pop, new wave, or whatever era to which Thomas Dolby belongs. But I'm going to say, with no irony, no, cynicism of any sort, that this era, I think, is actually one of the most important of all music. And I'm not going to go on preaching like this. I'm just saying that in the early 80s, you had the combination of new technology such as synthesizers, some early digital experimentation, created and put together by artists who still had the imagination and the strong sense of songcraft and production from the 60s and 70s era. And Thomas Dolby, to me, was one of those people. He definitely had the songcraft of the old days, as you could say, depending on your age group, with the modern era. And he had done work with people like Lena Lovitch and actually, as my friend, online friend, Scotty from Scotty's Record Shop had pointed out, he actually played synthesizers on Foreigner's 4 album from 1981. But, okay, anyway, he released his first full-length album in 1982, re-released in 1983, and this is the version you have here with some extra cuts and some other cuts taken off of it, and it's called The Golden Age of Wireless. This is an absolutely fantastic album. I mean, it has She Blinded Me with Science, which is an absolutely fantastic hit from that era. I absolutely detest that indie pop Muzak version they use on PBS right now. Thank you very much. It epitomizes everything this song isn't, but I digress again. Not making this into a hater festival. Okay, so this is, rather the reverse, actually. This album is a dynamo. I mean, it's got Airways, which is possibly one of the most beautiful songs from that era compositionally, and has a really interesting and somewhat subversive lyrical message as well. And Radio Science is another great song from this album, very much in the synth pop vein, the whole album. A great sense of percussion. Thomas Dolby is a guy that was kind of like a British male version of Joni Mitchell. You know, he was always very restless artistically. Never stayed in one place too long. Anyway, there's actually a song on here called Commercial Breakup, which points to another element of his sound, which I'll get into a little bit later. But there's the back of it. Oh yeah, there was also Europa and the Pirate Twins, and one of our submarines was also a couple big songs and stuff. But a great album overall. Great album. Now, his next one came out a year and a half later, and it was called The Flat Earth. Now, anybody who knows about Thomas Dolby knows that he was a member of what I guess is considered an obscure kind of pseudo-scientific group, the Flat Earth Society. And I think this album is actually named for that. Now, this is a very different album than his debut. The hit on this is Hyperactive, but you could see the difference. Now, at this point, Thomas Dolby was starting to hang around with George Clinton and funk artists. And he was moving into different categories. And he did a version of the Dan Hicks song, I Scare Myself, which shows that he's moving in more of a jazzy funk direction. There's other songs on here, like Mulu, The Rainforest, which are just very unusual. And Dissident is plain straight out funk, okay? Plain straight out funk. I think he lost a lot of his audience from that She Blinded Me with Science era with this record, but, you know, so what? Artists have the right to do whatever they want, and he did a bang-up job, I think. If you want serious funk, you got it. This album is a full-on funk pop R&B album from 1988, Aliens Ate My Buick. The whole thing is just that way. Airhead is the opening cut. Very Prince-inspired, this album in a lot of ways, with its funk rock mixture. Thomas Dolby was kind of out of his commercial element at this point and not doing that well in that area, but artists that he had influenced were. And anyway, after this, he did another album in 1992, which I don't have, called Astronauts and Heretics. But he also recorded a computer animation soundtrack called The Gate to the Mind's Eye as the third part of a trilogy of Mind's Eye videos. But anyway, his next album, actually, after Astronauts and Heretics, came out, I think about a year ago. A couple years ago. Map of the Floating City. Now, this album is stylistically all over the map. You know, a little pop rock, a little retro new wave, even some kind of country bluegrassy stuff. You know, not what you'd expect from a guy like Thomas Dolby. But anyway, that's what I've got by him. You know, he has other albums, but these actually are a good chunk of what he's got, and they're my favorites. So, happy birthday to Mr. Thomas Dolby. And if you're recording, don't make us wait so long next time. Definitely want to hear more from you. See you next time.